application. Thank you, may record, and can we have the case officer to give the overview of the application? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. This is a reserved matters application following the approval of the outline planning application AVA 2017-0645, seeking the approval of the appearance, landscaping, layout and scale of 200 dwellings with the associated community open space at Nether Farm land of Birchwood Lane, Somercotes. At the beginning of my presentation, I would like to update the planning board that there is an error in the reference number mentioned in the title. So the outline planning application should be referred to is AVA 2019-0634, and this reference is also mentioned in the planning history. If you open page 7 of your reports bundle. So the 2019 application is identical to the original outline application, except that the 2019 application saw an extension of time for resubmission of the reserved matters and reflects the decision of the judicial review decision which was upheld. So this planning permission was granted in January 2022 after the reserved matter has been submitted. So just basically this slightly administrative correction that I had to do at the beginning of my presentation. So as I mentioned, the actual appearance, reserved matters are not somehow materially changing the outcome of this particular change to the reference number. So the planning board members are reminded that the principle of the development, including means of access, have been approved originally by the planning board in 2018, 13th of July, and subsequently in January 2022, subject to conditions and Section 106 legal agreement, which covers obligations such as affordable housing contribution, off-site contributions which relates to sustainable drainage, highways improvements and education. So more detailed information related to planning history could be found in Section 7 of the report which I mentioned earlier. So the extant reserved matters application only relates to appearance, landscaping, layout and scale of 200 dwellings, which are shown on the next red line plan. Hold on a second. What I'm doing? Okay. See. It's not working. Right, so this is the red line plan. That's been approved as part of that outline application. So I'll just go back a little bit because there. So this is the red line plan. So the application has attracted a number of objections from the local residents. Again, these are covered in Section 6 of the report. A large number of these objections relates to contamination and the other development site. I note that these are not matters for this application and are not required to be considered, and they are required to be considered on their own merit, but not as part of this particular proposal. So I have also received late emails from councillors Eva Long and Alison McDermott asking clarifications on a layout plan, disabled access and street footpath formation, provision of additional bird boxes and hedgehog fencing. So I acknowledge receipt of these emails and will provide a response to these questions raised in due course, either personally or via email. Just didn't have a chance. So this slide shows the layout, scale and appearance of the development. So the principle of the access has been accepted as part of the live planning application. Can use that. So this is the access of Birchwood Lane. That's the main access to the site. The layout identifies the street patterns, character areas and form of the development. The overall layout, scale and appearance meet the national and local plan policies, including supplementary planning document on residential development. So this is SPD, which is adopted as part of local plan policy. There are also no objections have been received from any statutory and non-statutory consultees subject to meeting the requirements of the relevant conditions included as part of the outline permission. So the summary of the responses could be found in section 6 of the report. The planning board members are reminded that this reserve matters application does not aim to discharge these conditions. Following the publication of the officer's report, we have received a consultation response from Amber Valley Borough Council Waste Collection Team requesting details of the proposed road network in order to demonstrate how the collection vehicles would enter, turn and exit the service and service the houses safely. However, this condition is unnecessary in this instance, as this requirement could be satisfactorily met under conditions 8 and 14 of the extant planning permission. So the layout plan also identifies 60 affordable houses, which consists of 45 social rented homes and 15 shared ownership housing units. This is again requirement in accordance with the signed section 106 legal agreement. This is the landscape plan for the development. The scheme has been amended to incorporate the retention of the TPO tree here. So there's a couple of TPO trees, but the most controversial was this here. And also there was a sewage pumping station proposed on the northeastern corner, which now has been removed. So we removed the objection from the tree officer as a result of retention of the trees. So the layout is in general accordance with the parameters and development areas approved as part of the outline planning application. Overall, there would be 22 house types included in order to support the different character areas. This is illustrated on a slide, so it's only one type of dwelling, but there are 22 overall. So the scheme has been amended from that which has been originally submitted with an application in terms of house type and layout, which is now more reflective of the locality. Subsequently, consultation has been undertaken and this assessment is based on these amended plans. So the types of houses proposed include detached and semi-detached types along the primary road and some elements of terrace properties within the secondary roads. So the eligible build framework for the development and existing character areas would not be compromised. So the next few slides include photo images of the site. On this slide you can see the access of Birchwood Lake, so this is existing. The next slide shows the access way to the site. So the next slide, view of the site facing east. View of the nearest dwellings to the west of the access road, including the existing boundary treatment. view of the landscape from the side and properties. You could see them at the far end on Birchwood Lane. So more views of the side facing south, showing the TPO tree, which would be retained. This is the TPO tree. This is the final slide in this presentation. So the recommendation is to permit the development as subject to the recommended conditions listed in Appendix 1 of the report. The proposal is considered to be acceptable and in accordance with the NPPF and the local plan policies. I have now completed my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions which specifically relates to this application. Thank you.
Okay. I like the squealing noise. Right, thanks for that. I don't know whether... No, we've now moved to public speaking. And the first person is, we've got Stephen Fryer. Stephen, you've got 3 minutes within which to address the board.
Thank you. When this was originally passed at outline planning, it was based upon 23 words and a sentence and a half to do with environmental, which clearly stated that they didn't think that contamination coming northwest from LSO1 would come into the site. I strongly objected to that, and subsequently an investigation done during the period of the judicial review showed the connecting shallow mine workings and that contamination through those mine workings and broken ground was reaching almost up to and including Birchwood Lane. Since the end of last year, adjoining site, Stanley Street, has a number of enabling works has been undertaken under that. This has disturbed the contamination within the mine workings, which was diffusing and creating an active system. The most likely reason that people have been becoming ill is because that contamination has been displaced by the volume of grouting that took place in the several hundred boreholes that were put down. That's pushed it into, and including, I believe, the nearest people who had the biggest investigation was Thomas, his wife, who sits here. Therefore, this has created significant harm, with the probability of that significant harm being linked to contamination from LSO1 through these mine workings that has been actively displaced. That would effectively, if the assessment was done, make there a significant possibility of significant harm, which actually then would classify LSO1 and the sites to the north, northwest and west, Nether Farm and this adjacent Stanley Street, secondary plume, as contaminated land under Part 2A of the Environmental Protection Act, Part 2000 of the Environmental Protection Act 1990. And that would therefore mean that the proper authority to look at this would be the Environment Agency, no longer the Council. When I read the 24 pages of the agenda for this, there was virtually nothing written about contamination other than a statement to be considered, and that under condition 22/0116, further investigations, new investigation would take place at a later date. You specify what they are. Nothing was written about the health that had happened to local residents. Nothing was talked about the ongoing investigation by the UK HSA, and nothing was put in about the fact that there have been some linkage agreeing with that from the UK HSA. Whilst I accept that this is a reserved matters,
Mr. Fryer, you've had your 3 minutes, my friend.
okay,
You now have you've got to read out a statement from Kelly Judson. That's your second statement, yeah?
who?
From Kelly.
Oh, forgot I'm doing that as well. Yes.
You've got another 3 minutes. 3 minutes
Okay.
starting now.
Well, that's 3 minutes on that. Okay, I'll do it. As everybody knows, Kelly took the original judicial review. based upon the new application. Unfortunately, that judicial review was placed entirely on the basis of whether or not the decision was legal, not whether it was a good decision. That was the decision the legal advice gave. Subsequently, it's been found by the investigations that took place that contamination was an issue, and that perhaps if it had been run on the merits of the case, would have won that, but it wasn't. Amount of time and effort that has been spent by the action group is immense on this. They have tried to get the council to understand their responsibilities rather than them fighting it and doing it for them. Throughout, we've been told that everything will be sorted out later on. However, although this application is reserved matters, an application should not be granted for land which is not viable. Given everything that's happened this year, it must be under very severe questions as to whether this site could ever be developed safely, and if so, is it even remotely viable? Those questions have not been answered. In terms of the contamination conditions, these were written last year, before the enabling works took place, before the health risks, before the possibility of post-contamination being mobilised by those works. What relevance has that condition got to what's going on today? We're in a different situation, and this whole thing needs to be looked at, particularly with respect to the future long-term liabilities that are being imposed upon the existing residents, both of Birchwood Lane and surrounding areas, Stanley Street and Thurgood Avenue, etc.
Thank you, Mr. Fry. We've now got Councillor Stephen Thompson.
Yep.
To the planning board, Mr. Tomlinson.
Yeah, as you've just been aware, my views are not the views of the whole of Somercotes Parish Council, just so you're aware of that. Basically, I got involved in this because my wife got ill. She's been taken into hospital on a suspected stroke. Then they said it was suspected meningitis. They cannot find anything wrong. They did blood tests for heavy metal poisoning, which we knew we knew that wasn't the case. My wife's illness, who was in the audience tonight, my wife's illness started after the investigation started on the Never Farm site. Since then, the Stanley Street site, which is all part of the same development, it might as well be, I have reported at least 26 different cases to the UKHSA. We are getting told by officers at Amber Valley that the UKHSA are no longer investigating. That is false. They are. I have had confirmation today from the UKHSA that they are still investigating it. And what happened is on the 29th of August this year, officers had a meeting by Zoom and telephone conversations with the UKHSA where they asked for the lead investigator to be removed. The day after, they called this meeting. Now, the problem is they're ignoring the council as a whole, not the councillors, because they're informed by the officers, but it's being ignored. Everything that's going on there on the site with people getting ill is being ignored. UKHSA are definitely 100% still investigating this site. On that, I ask that it be postponed at least until the UKHSA have finished their investigations. And I am not bothered how many lies your officers tell us. I have proof that there are lies.
Thank you, Councillor Tomlinson. I've now got Councillor John McCabe, Ward Member.
Yeah.
You have 5 minutes, John.
Well, I don't think it'll be 5 minutes. I really appreciate what you've said, because I don't know what's been happening, Some people are saying one thing, it's all cut and dry, there's no issues from the health authority, and obviously it is. I think it should be a proper full investigation from the planning board, from their officers to tell us the truth, because it's not right. You know, we put it, you make people frightened. You know, we shouldn't be doing that. You know, I don't like it. So, but my main concern is, I'm going back about 39 years, and something similar to this happened in Gloucester and Nina, where the building blew up. There was an explosion. That's not really connected, but it could happen in years to come. We need to make sure this site is safe. From the report at present, there's nothing to convince me that this site is safe. And I think we need further investigations and more proper reports from officers telling them that the site is safe. We've got some other concerns about the site as well, because I think that's a major one, but there's other issues. I'm concerned when the officer said about the sewerage pump had been taken out of the equation. How's the sewerage going to get out now? Is it going to be onto the, what is it, can the network take it? I don't know. On the site there's lots of wildlife, bats, stuff like that, nothing that's mentioned in the report. That's a disgrace, you know, we should be doing something about that. I can't understand why we've not mentioned it. And also, on Stanley Street, originally there was a badger set, got destroyed. Is the badgers on this side? Are the Derbyshire Wildlife Trust really investigating this? And I also want to go back to the highways. There's no way that Birchwood Lane can take the traffic from the entrance. The entrance is disgraceful. And on the entrance, they put a big sign up, massive sign, houses for sale. Why should these housing companies be allowed to put boards up advertising when they're not even got planning applications? It's not there. And I'm told, oh, you can do that. That's totally wrong. And I think we really, in future, ought to investigate that. This is also an overdevelopment of Summercoats. There'll be total housing right from Birchwood Lane right through to Highbridge. Overdevelopment should not never happen. I'm not very happy about that. One or two issues is on Stanley Street we've had problems, and I know Councillor Thomas and myself and Councillor over there, we had problems from when these sites are starting development. These lorries just go onto the sides, bang, 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 and I had to stop them one day. Probably would have got none of the time. They go onto the side and they sludge all over the road. There's no conditions in any of these reports ever that I've noticed that there should be wheel washers. And that should be the first thing on any site, that is on the report. I'm just going to say, I've been fighting this all my life, or feels like it, you know, I'm getting on now. And it should, in the very first, when this first come to the planning board, should have been chucked out. The site is unsuitable, there's lots of conditions, hopefully can be sorted. I think this should be either postponed until we've got further evidence that this site is safe and it's really safe. I just can't think of any more things to say, but it's site is so unsuitable.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe. And you're a spring chicken to me, mate. So, right, thank you ever so much. We now move on to the agent, Andrew Gore. Have we got Andrew?
Yes.
Hello there, Andrew. Welcome to the planning board.
Thank you,
So
John.
3 minutes within which to address the board.
Thank you. As a national house builder, Avant Homes clearly take matters of contamination and protection of human health extremely seriously. In this respect, there are a number of factual points that I'd like to make here. Firstly, contamination is a matter that relates to the principle of development, and it was considered in detail as part of the outline planning application in 2017. Contamination is not within the scope of a reserved matters application. The Planning Act clearly states that reserved matters include layout, scale, appearance and landscaping. The point is made, has already been made, and has been made again at 9.11.6 of the officer's report. Secondly, even if contamination was an issue for consideration tonight, which it is not, the issue of contamination was considered in depth by officers in part of the 2017 outline planning application. And as part of that process, both the council's principal pollution officer and the council's scientific officer raised no objection and recommended a series of pre-commencement conditions to deal with any potential contamination that may arise on site. And based on this advice, planning officers then recommended approval for the outline application. And at the planning committee that subsequently followed, members heard from objectors, including some of those who've spoken tonight, about the same contamination issues. And notwithstanding that, the planning committee approved the application and granted planning consent. And then again, the decision of the Borough Council, as we've already heard, was the subject of a judicial review. However, the judge dismissed the judicial review on the grounds that he considered that the way in which the council dealt with contamination was entirely appropriate. So overall, the weight of professional opinion here has consistently been that contamination found in the ground can and should be dealt with through properly worded pre-commencement conditions. And again, fast forward back to now in respect to this reserved matters application. A glance at the statutory consultee responses contained within the officer's report again indicates that the council's principal pollution officer and the council's scientific officer are both satisfied that contamination is being dealt with adequately through condition 18 of the outline planning consent. And finally, in respect of matters that are relevant to this application, these being layout, scale, appearance and landscaping, the officer's report confirms that the proposals by Avant Homes have been assessed against the policies of the local plan and found to be acceptable. And as we've already heard, there are no statutory consultee objections to this planning application. We'd urge members to grant approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
What was his name?
Concludes the agent speaking. I'm now looking to the board for a resolution. Councillor Monkman.
Thank you, Chair. After listening to everything that everyone has said and reading all the reports, my proposal is thus that I'm minded to defer on the basis of information that we are yet to receive. In the report, it says that there are reports outstanding from the Coal Authority, UK HSA and Derbyshire Wildlife Trust. So therefore, that is my proposal, that we defer on the basis of information that we are yet to receive. Chair.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Okay. Thank you very much. Now we're open for the planning board to debate, ask questions, discuss. Anybody want to start? Councillor Nina Burslem.
Hi, thank you. Can I just ask about the design and layout to do with the location of affordable housing? So I'm looking at 9.11.3, and it says the design and location of affordable housing within a development should be the same as market housing. Affordable housing units should be evenly distributed across the site. But then in 9.11.4, it says that the location of affordable houses as well are in clusters distributed across the site. I wondered if we could just clarify whether it's evenly distributed or clustered. I don't
That's right, Councillor, you're speaking through the chair.
Oh, so sorry. Can it be explained whether they will be in clusters, the affordable housing will be in clusters, or will it be evenly spread?
Is that your only comment?
Just for the moment.
Just for the moment. Can the officer, the case officer, want to reply?
Well, I mean, by clusters and evenly distributed, so they've got like little clusters. To be honest, the plans are so minimised here. So the clusters are sort of areas here, so they are quite evenly distributed across the site. That's what I meant in my report. But they are in clusters, like you've got housing, affordable housing in this area here. So, and I think we've got clusters of the houses here. So that's what I mean. There's every area like south, there's a north, south, and east and west. That's kind of distributed evenly, so it's not only one area. Hope that clarifies.
That satisfy your.
Well, it just says that the applicant is required to provide and agree the details prior to commencement of the development. So is that done? As we...
What part are you referring to?
911 4.
Submitted, I just read out, submitted layout plan identifies location of affordable dwelling in clusters distributed across the site. These houses are shown with a northwest, southeastern and southern
Yeah.
section. However, the scheme does not show which houses are to be socially rented.
Yes.
So there's that affordable housing as explained in my, so the social, the 60 houses affordable, so the 45 social rent, and but the rest is shared ownership. So this is something that has not been identified. So that requirement, the applicant will still need to address as part of section 106
Yes.
legal agreement when it comes to discharging this particular requirement.
Councillor McDermott.
Thank you. So I do actually have quite a lot of questions about this site, but this has been quite a big proposal here that we defer, so I would just like some clarification on what we're legally allowed to do, what information is missing, and whether that is legally appropriate for us to defer for more information. If somebody could just explain to me what information is missing and what grounds there are to defer, could you?
I'm not sure. I wasn't part of it, so.
Well, so it's okay. We'll.
We'll take this point.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I was going to come in a bit early, but I was going to wait for people to speak. Obviously, you've made the recommendation to defer. The principal's already, obviously,
Sorry, people can't hear.
oh,
Can we
sorry.
get the mic?
Yeah.
We have to get the whistling as well. Is that better for everybody? Yes, so what we're here tonight to decide is the principle's already there, so this development will go, is granted permission, has been granted permission after a few years. So you're here purely and only to consider if you think that the appearance, the landscape, the layout and the scale is acceptable. So obviously my advice and my legal advice would to be that if you are deferring purely on the contamination grounds, then obviously that would be of concern. At the moment we don't know what it is and what matters people are wanting to defer on, but it would have to be related to any of those 4 points for it to obviously be lawful.
Could we clarify before we progress, because there's a motion here, the grounds upon which it's proposed that we would defer, on which pieces of information it's suggested are incomplete?
I think the resolution was pretty clear to me.
So,
One of them was the coal authority,
thank you.
and what was the other one, Councillor Wolfman?
It's Coal Authority, UK, HSA and Wildlife, but the reason from what you just mentioned is the scale.
Right.
I don't see how we can make a decision today on the scale without the information from those 3 bodies
Yeah.
at this stage. So
Yeah.
that's where my deferment comes
I
in.
just want to really just clarify to members as well, as much as we all have, we've all got and taken on board very much what the local residents have been saying and what the public speakers have been saying, and fully understand that. But what you've got to consider is that we do have conditions that deal with all the contamination. So even if members tonight do think that the appearance, landscape, layout and scale is acceptable to you, then obviously no work will be done in terms of the contamination until that condition is discharged, at which time I know for a fact that we'll have the UK HSA report by then as well. Now, I would like actually the planning officer just to clarify, because I was made aware that they have made some preliminary findings, the UK HSA, and that's what they informed to us, but I'm not quite sure, so I will have to come and defer that to the officer to give you that clarification on that one.
Can I just, not just a sec, can I just, in support of, not necessarily the motion, I'll come back to you, Councillor, is I did ask officers for further information on the UK HSA, and it wasn't forthcoming before this meeting on full disclosure of all documents, emails, etc. that have been to and fro, irrespective of whether that was about who made the investigation or not. And I haven't got them and I haven't had them. So that weighs into me as another issue that is of concern that we, not just me, you as board members need to have that information, and without it the decision making becomes flawed. I'll bring you back in. You can have a good time tonight. I've got Councillor Long who's going to bring something interesting into the board.
This is just for clarification really, so the only points of information we're talking about here that are relevant now, reserve matters, is this scale, as Councillor Mulligan suggested. So I'd like to understand what information are we missing that have been given to us that relate to this scale.
And just coming in, obviously you've got all that, as far as, I mean obviously that's for members to determine themselves, but obviously we as officers would say that you've got all that information in front of you. In terms of making a deferral purely on the basis, like I've said, of contamination, then what members have all got to consider is that if this is deferred tonight, then that leaves it open for the obviously for the agent to be able to go for non-determination, when it would then be taken out of all of your hands and you would have no control over what happens with the appearance, landscaping, layout and scale. So that's always something. Also, you know, if it was appealed, then, you know, even though this isn't a material consideration, and I will stress that, members, this mustn't form part of any of your decision making, but I would advise you that, you know, we would be deferring or refusing on not appropriate grounds, but that's just my legal advice to you.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, can I just
Unfortunately, you can't,
John, can you say?
We have to form our decision making with the debate. Everybody's had information well in advance of the meeting.
Can I just read a statement?
No,
that I wrote?
leave it. You won't let me.
Unfortunately, you can't. It's got a process, and I'm generally not a bureaucrat in the real world. However, we do have a process for people to speak. We have a process for a resolution. We've got one in front of us. It's now the planning board's task to challenge officers, to debate amongst each other the issues that are at stake. So, unfortunately, on this occasion, it's a no. Have I got any answers? I've got Councillor
Can I just say that that lady there, she's not browbeating these people,
Unfortunately,
doing what you wanted to do. What
we're having a genuine debate which is
Yeah.
taking into consideration all
like
that you've said, sir.
it looks like it.
Well,
She
whatever
shot
it looks
everybody
like,
down that's holding the mouth on that side.
there's been, I was chair of the planning board when this came through the board, and it's had many years discussion, one way or another. So we're going to carry on and debate this. Councillor Buckman, then Councillor.
Yeah, I just want to make a couple of points of clarification. So the proposal that I've made is for me. When you're on the planning board, I don't speak for everybody else. I speak for, I think, of the way forward. So I can't answer your questions because I don't know what information you didn't think you'd get. I know what information I've got.
I know, I just want to
Yeah.
be clear what we would be voting on.
So, and I also want to be clear that at no point other than about now have I mentioned contamination.
You've not.
That is not part of my resolution. You've mentioned it twice, but I haven't said that's part of my thinking. What I have said is that I take my role on the planning board very seriously, and therefore I have some information that I would like to see. I would like to see, which refers to the scale of the development, just in case anyone's going to get excited and say that I've said things that I haven't said. What I'm saying is that I want to defer on the basis of information pertaining to the scale that we are yet to receive. And that is from the Coal Authority, UKHSA, Wildlife Information. I have never said contamination in relation to that resolution because that is not part of what I'm trying to get clarification on. So please don't anybody put words in my mouth.
Clarified the clarification there, Councillor. Thank you very much. Anybody else from the board? Eileen Hamilton, Councillor.
Thank you very much. My question is basically, and I know each planning application is judged on its own merit, but mine concerns the wildlife. I've not seen a report. On 6A, you say you can, whatever mitigation mitigation factors you need to take. But while around 200 days elsewhere, you can do it. But on 6B, the one at Peace Hill at Ripley, you haven't got the room for it. So I need to know what this says in that report that tells me you can do it on one, and you can't do it on the other. And I know
The one before.
that you do it throughout on the valley. So it's not because it's not in a 5 mile radius. Thank you.
I think it's difficult for the officer if the officer hasn't done both.
No, it's not. It is a little bit challenging, but I'm familiar with the conditions that cover the outline applications that what it is, isn't it? Yeah. So there is a condition, just get the number in.
Could you use the mic, please? We can't hear you.
Yeah.
It might be you.
So there is a condition 20 of the outline planning permission, which covers ecological management plan, so landscape and ecological management plan and appraisal. So that is a requirement for as it comes to the pre-commencement requirement. So it's again that would be a matter separately, only dealing with ecological assessment and management. Although I did mention Derbyshire Wildlife Trust, but they said there's no objection subject to addressing requirements of condition 20. And similar with the Coal Authority, they haven't raised any objections subject to meeting the requirements of condition 19 of the outline planning permission. So although I can understand there is a temptation to defer the application on the basis of conditions 20 and 19 and request for further information, these are covered by the extant outline planning applications and conditions. So that's the reason why these reserve matters don't look at the principle, because they've already been established and covered by the conditions.
Will that be the same conditions that Miller Homes have ignored on Stanley Street?
Please not interrupt the officer. The officer never interrupted you.
Well, they're the same conditions that they ignored already.
Right. I've got anybody else from? I've got Councillor McDermott.
I'm finding this terribly difficult, and I've got a lot of empathy for the members of the public who clearly are very anxious about this site. I am very concerned to throw frustration off from being on the planning board, because you have to act within, you have to make sure that you make local decisions. It's really difficult. And so that's why I've been asking for this clarification as to what we're voting on. I'm very concerned to vote for the proposal, because I'm being told, I understand by the legal representative, that's not something that we really are allowed to do at this point. But obviously we would all like reassurance that these very important concerns of the members of the public will be safeguarded and protected through the conditions that already exist. And so it would be reassuring if we could just have maybe a little bit more information on that, because I am very mindful of what Councillor McCabe said, that people are frightened, and that's very concerning. But I'm also very aware that we have to act in a lawful way within the parameters that we've got here tonight for decision making. So is there any way that we could have some reassurance and have a little bit more advice as councillors as to how this will be monitored to make sure that this very important concern is given due?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I did allude to it earlier. We've got a condition on the outline that deals with contamination, and again, I fully understand that obviously that there is concerns. There is that report that is still outstanding that we are obviously waiting for, which obviously, officers are not going to disregard if anything comes in there that is adverse. So I will clarify that. We've also got conditions. They will not be discharged unless everybody is happy that they can be. So we've got that added protection. But again, I'm not, I'm telling you this purely from the legal perspective, that you are only here at the moment to consider those 4 elements. Is the appearance, the landscape and the layout scale, is that acceptable to you? And that is the remit, and unfortunately that is the remit that you are considering it on. So, but I can assure that there will be other balances in place.
Councillor Steve Marshall-Clark.
Yeah, obviously there's an issue quite clearly. Derbyshire County Council Highways officers identifying that there's visibility issues on the site. There will be issues with there's visibility along the bend in the road with plots 88 and 91. Should I planting take place along the front of this? This also applies to plots 140 to 151. Has that been mitigated? Has that been changed? Have we? My concern is it saying subsequently in that piece from Derbyshire County Council Highways, it says planting needs to be kept down to 600 millimetres, which is 2 feet high. Well, Amber Valley Borough Council let grass grow taller than 2 feet high. So this is a condition. We've been talking about conditions and issues, and these are things that can't be delivered. I acknowledge I do have concerns about conditions, because there's a condition on a development in Alton, in my ward, that hasn't been discharged in 9 years. It's not been achieved. And that does cause me concern. And this sounds like exactly the same sort of scenario. We'll just pass it through, and there needs to be a redesign or something to ensure that access is safe. And these are indicating that access, Derbyshire County Council Highways, indicating that the access is not safe. The 3 hazards are going to cause a problem.
Thank you. Okay. I'm just being told, just to whether you're going to be rest assured or not, is that conditions have to be satisfied. Some of them are done.
No, I think some don't have to be satisfied before the commencement. The condition that we're talking about in terms of contamination, nothing can start until that is discharged. It has a lawful, so it can make the agriculture lawful. If you've got a pre-municipal condition that is discharged before that. I mean, obviously there is other conditions that.
I'm going to pretend to be chair for a bit now. We've got a valid resolution in front of us, and everybody's had a sort of discussion that's drifted a little bit. We would like to bring it back into some sort of focus for the board, so either sort of for or against in or a debate. So anybody else want to speak? Councillor Bursley.
Yeah, well, just a sentence here about the Coal Authority's comments, 911.8. Can somebody explain how the layout takes account of all the mine entries? Where are the mine entries? Do we have this information, and how are they accounted for, please?
Yes, so 911.8, just I'll read out for those who don't have that in hand. So the report states, the Coal Authority has made a number of comments which relate to condition 19 of the outline planning permission. The requirements of condition 19 are considered under separate submission of details, and I refer to that reference number conditions to the COND/2022/0116. Furthermore, the submitted layout takes account of all the mine entries and buffer zones requirements. So this is something obviously, so
Carry on.
yeah, so the layout should really take into account of the historic previous use of obviously mine operations. Sorry.
So, sorry, I was saying that there are mine entries on this
There are.
site.
There are, so yes,
And
there
can
are.
we identify where they are?
Hundreds of them.
Well, I'm
There's
not
hundreds.
supposed to really to say where exactly they are.
There's one at the back of my
because they have
garden.
been taken into account, and that way we have. You see, I don't understand where they're leading with this question,
Well-
because there is no other options. This is layout we have, and
Yes.
this is.
I'm just asking how will they be accounted for? So what
I've
will
been
deviation work?
I've been told by the applicant that's been taken into account, hence that's my statement in this. Again, that condition 19, they'll have to satisfy the requirements condition 19 to state that basically it's pre-commencement condition. Condition 19, I'll read it out to you. It says no development shall commence until the application site has been subjected to the submission of the scheme of intrusive site investigations for the mine entries have been approved in writing by the local planning authorities. So you've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 requirements under condition 19 that the applicants still would need to meet before any works commencement. If there are any discrepancies between that layout plan and those maybe some other mines entries that could be discovered during site investigation, so that would require slight amendments of the layout plan. But as I said, at this stage we don't have any other options. This is the layout plan that we have.
I'm sure we'll get a sight of any information. So, any other questions from the planning board? Thank you. Right, we're going to move to Councillor Muckman's resolution. Do you want to quickly say it again, Emma?
Yeah, sure. So I suggest that we defer on the basis of information that we are yet to receive, this being from the Coal Authority, UKHSA and Derbyshire Wildlife Trust, and this is for purposes of the scale of the site. That's specifically where I'm going with my
Thank
motion.
you for that, and you've got a valid seconder, Councillor Hamilton. And I'll move to the vote. All those in favour of Councillor Muckman's resolution? We've got those counted.
6.
Carried.
Thank you, councillors. All those against?
Oh, Jane Norton. Nice.
And any abstentions? That resolution is carried. Yes.
Referred.
The application has been referred. If people have attended because of that application, if you would like to stay and listen to the rest of the evening's business, you're welcome.
That's
Why
what
didn't John keep vote?
He's not that, he's not on the planning board.
Right.
Did you notice who voted against?
Mm.